Elijah goes to the woman, and I got to ask myself, he says, I want you to go ahead and prepare this meal, and when you do it, I want you to give it to me first. And I have to imagine that this woman had some girlfriends. She would say, girl, don't you let that man talk you out of your food. Don't you let him sweet talk you and talk you out of your last meal. Things are already bad enough. Things are already dire for you. Your outlook is already bleak. Why would you put your priority beneath beneath his? Why would you put him first and not take care of your own home? And the thing about this text that we've read is that we know what Elijah said, but we don't know how he said it. Just like when you get an email or someone sends you a text message, you know what someone is saying, but you don't know how they're saying it. And so we don't know how Elijah may have spoken to her, but I believe however he spoke it, I believe this woman believed she heard God's voice talking. And I believe the reason why she responded the way she responded is the same way you and I respond whenever we hear God talking to us. Because when you hear God talking, God has a way of convicting you and touching you and letting you know that it is his voice in your ear. And I'm trying my very best to decrease, and I want God to increase, and I want God to use my mouth and speak his word. And there may be somebody listening to me right now who is listening, and God is speaking to your heart right now. And there are some things that you've been holding on to for a long time. There are some things that you are comfortable with. But God is saying, it's time for you to go to another level. It's time for you to let go of fear. It's time for you to launch out in the deep. It's time for you to embrace this new future that I have for you. It's time for you to reach out and be and go and achieve and accomplish what I have for you to accomplish. That somebody listening to me right now needs to know that your prayer is on the way. You've been praying and struggling and fasting and pleading the blood and walking the floor and crying all night long. But I want you to understand that God heard your prayer and your answer is on the way. He may not come when you want him to, but he's always on time when he comes. And I want you to also understand that God is not just restricted to speaking from male voices in the pulpit. God can use anybody, anywhere, at any time to deliver his message. God can speak to your children. God can speak through your co-workers. God can speak through your circumstances. God can speak through your neighbors. God can speak to you through the radio. God can speak to you through traffic. No matter what avenue God may use, when you hear God's voice, God knows how to convict you, to let you know that he is the one talking to you and speaking to you. Joy is still available to you, my brother. Joy is still available to you, my sister. Yes, weeping may endure for a night, but joy does come in the morning if you hold on until your change comes. Amen. So our calling, our task is to be attentive and say, Lord, I know you're speaking, but I need to be listening. I need to be listening. I need to understand that it's your voice. And if it's the Lord's voice calling, if it's the Lord's voice speaking to you, it's yours to act and to trust God in faith. Because if we were to be honest this morning, if we were to confess to one another this morning, our problem isn't so much that we don't know what to do. Our problem is we don't do what we know. Because God has spoken. God has revealed. God has shown you, and our calling, our task is to launch out and do what God says do.